This is Michael Popok, Legal AF After Dark. Gaggle, gaggle. No, I'm not a turkey on Thanksgiving. I'm talking about two gag orders, one in New York, one in the District of Columbia, both up on appeal involving Donald Trump. And we have the oral argument coming up in the New York version of it with a new filing by the New York Attorney General submitting a captain in the Department of Public Safety who outlines, including 275 single-spaced pages of attacks on the judge and on the principal law clerk because of Donald Trump. Want to know more? Ben Meiselas in one corner, me, Michael Popok, in the other. We join together in Legal AF. And here's a clip.
Before going back into speaking on the gag order in the New York Attorney General civil fraud case and how the filing before the appellate division was used in the Washington, D.C. appeal in the federal case of the gag order there, it's just worth noting for a second, Popok, you've practiced for over close to 30 years, and you practiced in that courthouse in New York where Judge Engoron sits. You've done a lot of civil cases, in that specific courthouse. And the very fact that litigants go in there every single day and have very serious disagreements with each other. These are parties that detest each other, suing each other, family rivalries, people who, corporate companies that hate other people. You got employees suing companies for serious misconduct. You've got all of this stuff going on in this civil division that's in New York. And you don't hear about this unprofessional and just disgusting behavior. And you've got people who are always fed up on, usually with the way a judge rules, or if Engoron ruled for the other side, happens every single day, hundreds of times a day, thousands to tens of thousands of times a year in that courthouse. But our whole system is based on this good faith in the process, in the system, in the judiciary. And what Donald Trump has done his entire life is anything that relies on good faith, right? Whether it's contracts, whether it's our social contract that is our Constitution, whether it is the unspoken rules that allow our courts to have the legitimacy. That's where lots of people looked at our system and was like, how are you? You just go along with good faith? And Trump and this MAGA movement came along and they were like, nope, we're ripping it apart. We don't care what it says. We don't care what the contract says. We don't care what the Constitution says. We're going to attack you and you and you. We're going after all of you. And that's just something that our system actually struggles to contain. And so while there was just this administrative stay of the gag order that's now subject to this appeal in an Article 78 proceeding in New York, which is where that affirmation by the public safety officer and the Solicitor General's filing talking about all the threats to Judge Engoron and Judge Engoron's clerk, all of that was filed. But like even the appeals court now, the appellate division has to really kind of struggle with the fact that, well, we have the First Amendment, which says Donald Trump can post a photo, and he's just posting a photo of the law clerk. And so without getting the 275-page single-spaced affirmation and learning about the totality of circumstances of how Donald Trump operates, you can see a judge or a justice sitting in an appellate level saying, but what's the issue here? Until they get the voluminous filing of this is causing copious threats every single day. And that's what Trump and this MAGA movement is doing to our judicial system. And that is where, the judge, when he first made the order lifting the gag order on an administrative basis, doesn't have that record. He just I just see a photo. What's the issue of Trump posting a photo? The issue is the modus operandi here of what's happening.
Yeah. And I liked that a lot. The social contract is really, really important to me. I operate in a certain way, and so do you, because we were raised with morals and values, and I entered a sacred oath as an attorney to uphold as an officer of the court the ethics and to make sure that there's the fair administration of justice from my end. There's a reason I don't wear my pajamas or a smoking jacket into court and ask the person in the black robe to move over because I've decided to sit on the bench today. I guess I could do that. It would be a one-shot deal, and then I'd be asked to go meet the bailiff with my toothbrush. But I would never think to do this. I've did the math while you were doing some of your rundown there. I think I've appeared in front of over 125 judges and arbitrators in my career. I've never seen what's happened with Donald Trump in my entire career, except once. One, and I won't name the person or the matter, but in an arbitration, my opponent decided at the beginning of the trial to use his beginning minutes of his opening statement to completely bash the arbitrator, calling him incompetent and prejudiced and not fair and balanced and not impartial and never having ruled in favor of a person like his client before in his entire, this guy was in his 70s. He was almost a semi-retired lawyer at that point. And I sat back because I knew this lawyer and I sat back thinking, this is either genius or insanity, and I'm not sure what I'm watching yet. I was like, I almost had to like muffle a smile because I knew this was going to backfire, and it did. He didn't win at all, and there's a reason you don't do these things. I have not agreed with every judge I've been in front of. I've been frustrated in front of some judges. It's been reported in the media that I've been frustrated with some judges during trials where I sort of put my head in my hands and the media caught it, but I would never cross the line to be abusive to the judge, the staff, a clerk, a court reporter, a sheriff, a deputy sheriff, an investigator, an FBI agent, or anybody like that. If I can't win my case in terms of my advocacy in being respectful and being a part of the social contract, then I don't want to win my case. And I don't want to be a part of that profession. Soon, these lawyers that are doing these things in the civil case, I think that's your point you're making too. This isn't even about Donald Trump going to jail. This is about Donald Trump stroking a check, and his lawyers are acting this way. And these lawyers may not be acting this way for much longer. As I said on one of my hot takes, first of all, they're the third string for Donald Trump, which is pretty low. Varsity already got fired, lost their bar licenses, or are indicted or now convicted, pled guilty. Junior varsity, same thing. I don't even know what this is. The scrub team, and all they're doing is risking their bar license for what purpose? To make the extra buck, so they can go to that MME fighting thing with Donald. They just love being in the company of Donald. It's so weird. I've never seen it before. This conflation between the lawyer and his client. I get that Chris Keiss has no other clients. I mean, he just went out and left a law firm to represent Donald Trump. I'm sure he hasn't been out pounding the pavement to get new clients lately. And Todd Blanche, the same thing. He left his law firm to represent Donald Trump. I haven't seen him represent one other person since then. So I get it. And Alina Habba had some little tiny firm, and you did a great hot take about she and her husband own millions of dollars in tax liens because they don't pay their taxes. I mean, that's a perfect lawyer for Donald Trump. In the courtroom itself, they are losing. And you and I and Karen have done hot take after hot take and Legal AF episode after Legal AF episode for the 7 weeks the trial's been going on in the civil fraud case. They are, here's a newsflash for those that are crossing over to watch us as part of our audience. Donald Trump is losing his civil fraud case badly, not just because of the witnesses that the Attorney General put on in her case, but because of the witnesses Donald Trump has put on in his own case. The evidence is strongly against Donald Trump to prove that his company wasn't just a fraudulent house of cards for all of this time in which he was able to borrow money he wasn't entitled to, get loan approvals he wasn't entitled to, get insurance he wasn't entitled to, get permits and deals approved that he wasn't entitled to during that period when he was a mere billionaire and not a triple billionaire. And that's what this whole case is about. They are going to lose. And when they get one little victory, like, oh, Justice David Friedman, he said no gag order for 2 weeks. Then they go out and completely try to, cause credible bodily harm to the law clerk and to the judge in the interim, hoping that no one else will notice. John Sauer says in his filing, the District of Columbia, an irrelevant set of facts about what's going on in New York. An irrelevant set of facts, a judge being subject to an assassination attempt because of comments made by Donald Trump when he wasn't gagged. That is the height of relevancy. And so the thing that we're watching, then we can segue into the New York Attorney General thing. I'll set it up and turn it back to you. So you've got the gag order in New York is even more limited than the one that Tanya Chuck and Judge Chutkan issued for Donald Trump. In the DC one, it's don't use violent rhetoric against these participants in the criminal justice system and don't target them. In Chutkan and Goron, in the New York civil fraud case, it's even more limited. It's very specific. Stop attacking my staff and my law clerk. That's it. They can't even pull that off. That shows you how dastardly and despicable they are as lawyers. They can't even stop attacking the poor defenseless law clerk who's a member of the New York bar, I'd like to remind them, and could be a future judge that they'll have to all appear in front of one day. They're bashing her mercilessly, causing potentially bodily and grievous harm to her and the judge as well during this period because they're losing in the courtroom. And this one judge, Judge Friedman, I'll leave it on this, turn it back to you. Judge Friedman is the same judge that temporarily, administratively, interimly stayed the trial before the trial even began on a request by Donald Trump. But by the time the full panel of the appellate division, of which he joined, 4 other people, they totally vacated his order and ruled against him and let the trial go forward. So just because they got David Friedman in a 1-hour hearing without the benefit of Captain Holland's affidavit about all of the bad things that have gone wrong and the increased threat assessment that has happened to these members of the judiciary and their staff, it was not in front of him. They didn't have any evidence in front of them. They had whatever the gag order was and whatever the lawyers on their feet could come up with on an emergency hearing that was called at the last minute down at the appellate division courthouse. That's all they had. With full briefing, I would be shocked if this appellate division wants to send the message to this Donald Trump or future Donald Trumps that you are free to abuse our judges and law clerks, and we won't do a darn thing about it. What do you think will happen, Ben, if that's the message that's sent about the court system in New York?
You will have a full revolt of all of the trial judges.
Right.
It's not just Judge Engoron. You have all of the trial judges in New York watching this. And they're thinking to themselves, if you allow lawyers to go against what the judge is saying in the court, you are going to destroy, as I said before, that social contract that exists, but more narrowly, the rules that govern just the basic decorum and functioning of a courtroom. And you're going to make all of our judges, trial judges, targets of death threats. The message you're going to send is all litigants can cite your opinion, judge, and can say, look at what Judge Friedman said. Judge Friedman says attacks are okay on trial judges. Go for it. And that will be cited as precedent for that. That's why one of the things that I thought was very powerful that Judge Engoron actually did in opposing this temporary lifting of the gag order is that Engoron actually got involved in the opposition. And you had people on behalf of Engoron going through the threats that Engoron faces, that his law clerk faces every single day. Because that the public safety officer talking about the death threats, to your point before, Popok, the 275 pages single space that listed all of the threats that have taken place since October 3rd, basically, caused by Donald Trump and Trump's lawyers' behavior, and says, okay, appellate division, here's the record. If you're going to say this is okay, you're going to single-handedly destroy the ability of trial judges to conduct business in the state of New York. David Friedman was appointed to the appellate division back in 1999 by a Republican New York governor, George Pataki. Again, what he did was administrative, but and it's not like a full lifting of the gag order. But as I've said before in some of the hot takes, you could see a scenario where an appellate judge, an appeals judge, gets this record before them and goes, well, what's wrong? It's just a photo. It's just this. It's just that. But that's why here in Goron, the court staff, the public safety officers made sure to give this full record of all of the death threats that have happened.
There's an example of what we do every week, twice a week on Legal AF, the leading podcast at the intersection of law, politics, and justice. Wednesdays, I do it with Karen Friedman Ignifilo. Saturdays, I do it with Ben Meiselas. We're all practicing trial lawyers, and we all bring it here, one place, exclusively, the MeidasTouch Network. If you know all about Legal AF, welcome back. We appreciate you. Send that clip on to friends and family and others and get them to join the movement. If you don't know what the heck I'm talking about, what is the MeidasTouch Network? What is Legal AF? Welcome. That's an example. We curate a podcast at the intersection of law, politics, and justice twice a week, and that's a clip from it. If you liked it, you're going to love what we do in and day out. We're up to episode over 600 in our body of work, and in hot takes every day, every hour by the leaders of Legal AF. Until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.